One twice. Okay, I'm gonna assume then the level on that's pretty low as far as like what my business looks like with it. So are we fixed, Mark? Perfect. Thank you. All right, let's start with. I'm gonna skip over that. All right, so what do sellers on the internet want? So when you're thinking about your website and what should be on it and what shouldn't be on it, the two major things that I see that sellers want is they're going to research you and your reputation. So having reviews on there, having testimonials, stuff like that. I recently read 74% of consumers choose who they're going to work with before that person actually steps into their house. So just by their digital footprint, they're already deciding if they're going to work with you or if they're not going to work with you. 74%, that's a lot. So having your past success stories, your testimonials, stuff like that is going to be really important.
Yeah, I've seen leads come in recently that have literally said in their first message to us, I saw your reviews on Google. So
Right.
we know that that's working.
Yeah. The second thing is for sellers, now this is specific to sellers, they want to know their home value, which is a ridiculous concept when you think about it. And that's what they've been trained to do, is to go to the internet to find out what their home value is. So making sure whatever platform you're working on has some type of instant home value tool is critical, in my opinion. So they want to know who is Gina and what's her past success, and then what is my house worth. I think when you're looking at seller or buyers, do you want to talk about what they're looking for?
Sure, they are looking for a home search, just like they're going to Zillow and Realtor and all those places. They're coming to your website as well. They want to see those homes, they want to see interior photos, and they want to get more information on homes.
Yeah. If you've heard the concept, sellers call off reputation, buyers call off of houses. That's your digital footprint of what it should look like. As an agent, what do we want on the internet? Like, I'll give you the answer. We just want their contact information. That's all we want. So it's like a win-win exchange back and forth. I'm going to give you home value. I'm going to give you the houses that you want to look at. You're going to give me your contact information, right? So it's an exchange of information online, and that's what we're after. So if you think about, like, if you hold an open house, you're there to sell the house, but you're also there to get information for the people coming through. So the best way to look at it, your website, is the same concept, right? I am going to give you information. You're going to see what you see, and I'm also going to get some information from you. Make sense? Cool. Any questions on that?
I just add that you talked about what sellers look for and what buyers look for. Our team actually runs two sites. So we run JoseSellsHomes.com, that's more seller focused. And when you go there, home value is the first thing you'll see. And then we run MyStartCountyHome.com, which is the Boomtown front end, that the first thing you see is home listings.
Yeah.
Hey, Laura, would you mind shifting your stool to the other side of the whiteboard? Basically, it tracks with Jose.
Oh, really? So as I move, it's like.
The camera's smarter than me. Yeah.
Yeah, because like if I'm a seller and I go to the buyer site, all I'm seeing is houses, right? And they don't really care about that. What they really want to know is about my testimonials and home value. And likewise, if a buyer comes across our seller site, they're not going to the internet to look for Jose and how wonderful he is and all of that stuff. They're going to see houses. They don't really, the agent's secondary at that point.
Right. And if we have a buyer that comes in through our seller site, we redirect them over to our buyer site once we connect with them.
Yeah, like we don't even set them out on a home search, right? Until they register there, and then we put them over here. And then once we actually close a transaction, we put them back into the seller site, because then they're getting home value reports every month from us. So they're not even going back to the buyer site. It's just all about reputation at that point. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about catching people in your web. So what makes an attractive website? What are some key ingredients that you've seen when you've been on websites, real estate websites, what looks good and what doesn't look good? What are necessities?
These are like user friendly. So like I know, like when I first got licensed last year, I used the MLS as my search, like the one home search. And then I found out by setting more people up in the Boomtown search that they preferred that, like bigger pictures, it was more user friendly and they could alter things themselves. And they knew how to use it. So like this functionality, I guess, would be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be easy to navigate, right? Yeah.
I
What
think
else?
Hand in hand with that is that it's easy to see, you know, it's simple.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think people try to cram so much on a site that is not necessary. Just make it really simple. Yeah. What else? What else is important to have it when you're creating your website?
Call to action.
Talk more about that.
A reason for them to reach out and give you their information because you're going to give them something of value.
Yep. Anything else? Last thing I'd say is like, it needs to be in your style, in your brand, right? Like, so it needs to be, if Gina has a certain style throughout her business cards, right? Or her flyers or her marketing, it needs to be in brand with that, right? It can't be different colors. It can't be different style. It needs to kind of fit that same kind of concept. Think about like if you went to Target and you saw everything one way and you went to Target online and it was completely different, like it just wouldn't match up. So,
And same with your social media, all the branding.
yep,
It all goes together.
Yeah.
Creates familiarity.
this is interactive. So any questions you guys have, please interact. All right, so let's talk about we could have the best website out there. And if no one ever comes to it, it's completely irrelevant, right? If no one ever comes across it. So when I look at how do you get people to come across your websites, there's really a couple different options. So the first one is like the free option, which is I'm already doing this and I'm going to include my email address on everything or my website address on everything. So what that looks like is all of my business cards, my email signature, my flyers at a house, my riders, all that offline stuff should be directing people to online, right? So if it's dominicfonte.com, it should be on everything basically. Anything to add to that? So the other option is, so that's free. The other option is the paid option, which is, there's two really kind of categories that play around in, is search engine optimization and pay per click. Does anybody know what search engine optimization is? Give a.
Isn't that kind of like where you pay to be on the top?
Well, search engine optimization is the free version of that. It means that I have enough rich content on my site that when someone Googles Canton Homes for Sale, naturally it comes up because I have blogs on it. I have this content on it, and there's just enough natural information on there that Google says this is a website that is relevant for someone searching for Canton Homes for Sale.
One of the big ways that Google looks and kind of ranks everybody besides paying to be there is through the content that you have and the volume that you have. So blogs are one way that's really good. If you write that blog and it's posted on your website, it may not be a direct, somebody came to read it, but it made your search result go up higher on Google, and that gets somebody to you quicker.
So when it comes to search engine optimization, like you can naturally tackle that, or you can pay someone to search engine optimize your site so it naturally gets pushed to the top. So what were you gonna say?
This is a question I should have asked a couple of minutes ago, but okay, if I'm not a tech person, I was just thinking about SEO. I currently run a more sphere-based business through friends and family. Can you convince me that I need to do this?
No, I can't. Because if it's naturally based, and you're happy doing 25 transactions a year and you really don't see yourself playing in that game, then search engine optimization is the icing on the cake. You still have to have a cake, which is your
I
website.
think that's my question. is
and
how
all that.
essential is it to have a web presence, even if you run a more organic business?
Right. It's critical that you have a web presence, and how much you put into it is really going to be up to you and what you want your business to look like. But you have to have a web presence. We just said 74% of the people are deciding online before they decide in person. So if you don't have a web presence or it's not attractive, you don't even get that opportunity. So the search engine optimization is like the +1 if you really want to go big and you really want to like get a bunch of people to your site.
It can be easier than you think to have a web presence too. I mean, some of these tools like Boomtown, Brivity, Sync, you know, they have that website kind of template. It's not like you're sitting there in a dark room coding, you know, for hours on end. So for somebody that's never done it, it's not impossible.
So search engine optimization. That's the free version. Right. I'm just going to put time and effort into my website and it's going to naturally go higher. Pay-per-click is the paid version, if you will. So that's where I Google North Canton homes for sale and Dominic pays to have his website as one of the top 3, 4 when people Google that. And when you see that, that means there's an ad next to it, like it says Dominic Fonte. What's your website?
I don't even know.
It's good.
DominicFonte.com, but it would say ad next to it. And so I think a lot of or sponsored, yeah. And so that's the pay-per-click showing up, right? And we've been doing pay-per-click for at least 10 years and it still works.
And one thing that we've been doing for about the past year is local service ads.
Mhm.
That's through Google as well. That's kind of on top of pay-per-click. And what that does is if somebody searches Canton Realtor and you see 3 or 4 little faces up at the top with a link to call, that's local service ads.
Yeah. Which is kind of a new version of pay-per-click, basically. Yeah. So it's SEO and it's pay-per-click. If you don't have the money or the budget to do either one of those, that's fine. You can get there organically by putting it on all your signs, all your business cards, all of it that way. If you want to put it on steroids, it's SEO and it's pay-per-click. Make sense?
One other way that can be both free and paid to drive traffic to your website is through your social media. So obviously you can have a Facebook presence or an Instagram presence, all for free, and post things there and include that link to your site. You can also do paid ads through KW Command, through your CRM, or just through Facebook or Instagram themselves. And again, have that specific link back to that house on your site or that home value tool on your site and drive people that way. We've been seeing pretty good success with that, especially using Facebook ads through commands lately. We've done pretty well with that.
Yep. Cool. All right. So let's talk about, I get an online lead now. What, I'm going to use the whiteboard. I get an online lead. Now what? And before, hopefully they can see this. Hi, people. All right. That sucks. Let's try this. There we go. That's better. All right. So this is my wonderful diagram that Gina has seen me do this like 18
And I
times.
do it in class all the time.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So this is Mr. and Mrs. home buyer that are happy and they just got their keys and they closed on their house. Okay. This is the time frame of how long they are in the process. Okay. And when they inquire, the closer that they inquire is the more likely they're going to close. Okay. So for example, if I'm looking at this, sign calls are right up there. Like sign calls are, I'm in a car driving around the neighborhood that I want to live in and calling about a house. They're like one of the best conversions out there. You could also put like referrals, right, in that kind of same category, right? They worked with Darcy 6 years ago and they're out looking and they're gonna call Darcy again. Very high conversion rate. And then you get into the portals, which are the Zillows, and I'd put Realtor maybe a smidge further out. So these are people that are online, going to a specific website, and saying, I want to look at just houses, okay? So as you get further out, one, it's gonna take longer. And two, there's less likelihood that they just won't buy, right? Or you're not gonna convert them. Way over here are IDX leads. I don't know what IDX stands for. I think it's Internet Data Exchange, but I don't know why it's not IDE, but whatever. And so these guys start the process and they say, I'm looking for a house in Canton, Ohio, and they Google that. And then they come across Dominic's website. So they're starting further out in the process, right? They're not going to the Zillows, they're not going to the realtors, they're not even in their car. They're 18 months, maybe 12 months out from buying a house, and they're looking at online at night and like putting in their information to get information about houses, right? So they are further out than your average. Facebook leads, I would say, are even further out because they're just scrolling through social media. They're scrolling through social media, they see Gina's new listing and they click on it and give their information. They may or may not end up buying something, but the further out you are is the less likely that it's going to convert, and they convert. The flip side of that though is the further out you get them, the more loyal they are, right? So if I can connect someone here, it may be 2 years before they buy, but they're going to look on Zillow, but they're going to always come back to me if I built in stickiness to the website, right? And so while we may hear like these leads aren't good, it's just we're not patient, right? We're not patient, or we're not building a sticky enough website, or we're not staying in communication with them. They're no different than this person, they're just further out. Make sense?
And so tell us what makes them sticky. Jeff can say, what do I always say about Boom Town? Well, not just that. We're like Netflix.
Oh,
If they come to your site, to keep them coming back, you have to give them what they want. That's the thing.
Yeah, yep. The thing I like about having your own portal and sending houses through that is if I go to an open house on a Saturday or Sunday, and I go to 4 open houses and I have 4 realtors sending me stuff and they're all sending it through the MLS, I can't tell Mark from Jeff from Dominic because they're all sending me the exact same thing.
Yeah.
If I go and Gina sends me something and it's different because of her website, it's going to stand out, and I think it looks better than what the MLS sends out, right? And so it's just how do you stick out from the competition? Anything to add?
I would say the other thing is when you're setting them up on a search on your own branded site, particularly if it's tied in with your CRM, you just gain access to more tools. So yes, in the MLS, you can see if they viewed that home and how many times, but with some of the tools, you can see they're on the site right now. You know, they viewed this house, they've clicked over here. You can even go to Google Analytics and see where they left your site. You know, how many clicks did they do before they got bored and left? So there's a lot more rich tools out there you can use.
So you have a 12-month, 18-month out buyer. What conversation, how often, and what communication are you having with them?
So some of our communication is going to be automated. We have some drips set up. Some of it's going to be automated emails, automated texts, but then we try to mix in some live phone calls, at least probably once a quarter in most of those longer term drips, so that either an outside agent or an inside sales agent is, you know, having a live phone call.
The process when an internet lead comes in for us is we have a 3x3. So correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm a little bit out of that, but 3 contacts within 3 days.
Actually 9. So it's 3 calls, 3 texts, 3 emails
Okay.
within 3 days. And the texts and the emails are automated. The calls are obviously the agent doing that. So the buyer's agents get those new internet leads. They put them on the 3x3. That happens over 3 days. If they haven't been able to reach them, then it goes to the inside sales agents who put them up on a more longer term plan.
You're probably contacting them about once a month in some aspect, right? And you want to be like, I say jab, jab, hook, but like you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. Like you just don't want to text them and text them and text them. You want to text them and email and then call them and then video email. And so you want to mix up what you're doing, or else they're just, it just kind of falls into like a rut of it, and it just kind of gets mixed with everything else. And then they're on the system until they say unsubscribe, basically. Like, we don't ever take someone out of the system unless they are asking to be released.
Right, and to
Right.
be fair, a lot of the new internet leads will say end on the text messages right away. But they're still opening those emails. You can see that with your tools, so you continue to send them those emails as long as you can.
Yeah, what I've experienced is as much of this as you can automate, the better, right? Because like, if you're responsible for following up with all these leads, you still have to go to home inspections and closings and listing appointments. It just becomes like the last thing that you do. And unless it's automated, it's just probably not going to happen. Like reality. Yeah. Anything else to add to that?
No.
So then one thing that you want to consider as you're building out your site is like the forced registration kind of debate. And who knows what forced registration is? Okay, so some, okay. So forced registration, just to make sure everyone's clear, is I go to your site and I have to put in information at some point, or I never have to put in information. So like one extreme is, I know one agent around here has, you go to the site, you can see the landing page, and that's all you're getting unless you register, right? There's philosophies behind both of them. And then go to the other extreme, like a realtor.com, you can search all day long and never put your information in. And then when you want something, you put your information in, and then it generates a lead for the system. So there's pros and cons either way. If you're just trying to generate a bunch of leads, you want to do forced registration pretty early, right? Because you want to get as many people into the database and syncing with you and contacting with you, et cetera. And if you're a solo agent and you can't follow up with all those leads, that's just a waste of time, and it's going to frustrate the consumer and all of that. So you have to, there's no right or wrong, but you just have to pick like what is best for you. What systems do I have in place to follow up with these leads that are coming in? The good thing about Command is, I don't know if you know this, but recently they rolled out where you can leave it open. I think it's like you can look at 10 properties before you're forced to register. I think it's 4 properties and 2 properties. So you get to pick where in that process you want people to have to register. So it's really kind of up to you. I think Boomtown is 3.
I think we can make it 3 or 5.
Okay.
You can choose, most of the CRMs, you can choose the
Okay.
number of either properties or even the number of pictures on one property, things like that.
Clicks.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
like
different
5
clicks.
because it has to keep you engaged
Yeah.
to want to pursue. 3 you might not have seen enough information, and then you're like, I don't care. But 5, you've gotten some and you want more.
It's like, I don't know if this actually really happens anymore, but like, remember going back to like the mall and there would be people out like outside of like Chick-fil-A and like giving you a chicken nugget or whatever, like, and saying like, come on in. That's kind of what it is with forced registration. Like, here's some chicken stir fry at the Chinese place. Come on over, because you're trying to get them in. And so that's what forced registration. I'm going to give you 5 things that you like. If you want more, then you got to come buy it. Yeah. So there's no right or wrong with forced registration. It's just a matter of like, if you do forced registration right up at the beginning, you're gonna get a bunch of leads, and do you have a system to like follow through with it? Or are they just gonna be frustrated? What do you have
For follow-up,
for, yeah,
like teasers?
yeah,
Well, I think, it's always perception reality, like you hear all these things. And I'm not trying to push this over to 2 hours, so. you probably should just say, "Sure you want to go."
don't ask him questions.
Don't ask No, I would say, like, this is just the way I do it, I don't pay for leads and I don't do that personally, but I've been at it a long time. I would say, if you think like how a customer think, like most people have 3 transactions in their whole life. So they really don't understand, but they do understand once they say something, they're nail person, cleaner, dog walker, Uncle Joe. I mean, everybody's the expert. So they're for some reason taking them over you. So I think what you have to do is position yourself as a knowledge broker of what's currently going on, how to make it relatable to the consumer. And, there's national headlines that they, it's just how the news cycles are. And how do you touch them in their heart? So you have to just decide if it's a buyer or a seller, what are their most concerning things right now? And try to articulate that in a message, an ongoing message, so you look like you're the expert.
Right.
That's what I try to do
Are you, you're putting that out on social media, and then
Everywhere.
it's directed back to your
Everywhere.
site.
everywhere.
Right. So he's basically just saying like, give them information that draws them
Yeah,
into the site.
It's not always like what you said, that was a good articulation of the house and the sale, and then like the conversion, quick conversion sign call. It's basically like, come look at the pretty car,
Right.
or catch them before anybody else catches them. And have a system in place.
Yeah.
Which is really a true way to do it, and you really want to do more of that by automation or by whatever your system is, your CRM. But I would just say in general, like you have to look at the long view on everything. And so understanding what they're thinking right now. So right now, there's some big concerns, like I've been at it long enough. I'm pretty excited about the market, what we're in right now. But if you're new to the market, like say 3 years or less, you're miserable, but you're not sure what the hell's going on. Is the sky falling? So, but in reality, this is really kind of a nice space to be,
Mhm.
especially if you have some good guidance. And so, that's basically what I say. So provide the information, be the knowledge broker. And it's not always about buying or selling a house, because I'll give you a quick example. So, I had an elderly person I met at church, and they thought they needed a condo because they couldn't keep up with the work. And once I sized up their house and, because I could have had a sale, a buy sale and a listing. And I talked them out of it because I didn't think it was the right thing for them. I mean, if they would have pushed me, I would have done it. But I gave them a solution to their problem, and they were like, started crying. They were so like overwhelmed and understanding like, why wouldn't you want to sell me? You just gave up 2 sales. So they went to church and told like 10 or 15 people. So I ended up having 5 or 10 sales within the next year as a result of that. So you always want to remember when you're cultivating activity and leads and relationships, it's not always about buying or selling. They have a sphere. And so you always are plugging into their sphere with sincerity and authenticity. Okay, so that's enough for me today.
Probably Linda's getting ready to hit you.
Show Linda. Hey, I said you have some better knowledge.
No, but it does kind of segue to something we were gonna talk about, which is the more value that you can provide on your site. So things that they can't find just by going to Zillow or Realtor, things that you offer and being that expert in the marketplace.
Yeah. So one of the concepts when you're looking at building out your internet site, and this kind of what Dominic was saying is, what is the reason they're going to inquire with you? And so we call it MOFRs, which is kind of a funny word, but MOFR is make an offer for immediate response. So take yourself out of the real estate market and just think about your life in general. And you're always coming across MOFRs. A MOFR is a bank says, I'll give you $100 if you open a checking account with us, right? Or come test drive this car and we're going to give you, a chance to win an iPad mini or whatever the case is. Like they're everywhere when you think about it. And with a website, you should have MOFRs on your website to say like, reach out to me and I'm going to give you this basically. And so KW has the thing where it's called skinny bait and fat bait. Do you want to explain what that is? Or you want me to?
Go ahead.
So skinny bait is come to my website to look at houses. I just listed 123 Main Street and come there and like look at the house with no registration needed. Fat bait is I get you to my site and I say, click here for a list of foreclosed homes, like an exclusive list of foreclosed homes, or click here to put your information in, and I will send you my coming soon listings before they hit the market, right? That's fat bait. That's going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't get that on Zillow. I can't get that on realtor.com. I can only get that here. And the concept is obviously phishing, but like the fat bait is going to hook them, right? And so what on your website is going to hook them to make sure that they are to you and to not anybody else?
If you don't sell my home, will you buy it for me?
Sure.
Is that fat bait or skinny bait?
That's fat bait.
Just
That's
checking.
very fat bait.
I wonder how many they buy.
There's fat bait.
And the list of foreclosed homes, like as an example, it doesn't have to be an actual list that you send them. You could set them up on a search for foreclosed homes, but that's the bait that's hooking them in to give you
Or how about,
registration.
how about if I'll sell your home with expert Jose's for 2% or less?
Like home light? Like, yeah,
Or any of them.
that's what home, I mean, that's what
It's a-
home
it's
light
a- it's a
is,
Spat bait drive.
right?
So if there's a blue moon and you buy and you list, and you sell and you massage my feet at the right time,
You get 2%,
yeah.
right?
Right.
It's something, I mean, not as shady as that, but it's something that is going to get them to say like, ooh, that interests me. And so other things that I was thinking is like, obviously rates is the conversation everyone's having, and there's lenders out there that have these rates where you can lock it in for a certain amount of time, and you're locked in at whatever rate you lock in at for 90 days. So like that's a fat bait that when someone's on your site, like find out how to lock in your rate before it goes up, right? And they click there and they register, and then you take that lead. Other thoughts, other fat baits that we've done before?
I think the home value is a big one, and then kind of following up with further information for sellers, and especially, you know, seller programs. We run quite a few.
Yeah.
Of.
Yeah.
Helping people get sold.
Yeah, how to maximize your home for top value, stuff like that is fat baits that you want to have on the site to just stick people, like get people hooked. Any questions about that?
So like, is your truck that you guys rent out, that's that big, right? Like, hey, buy a home to us and you get a moving truck,
It's,
or that's skinny?
I think that's skinny. I mean, because it's kind of been, for me, it's been around for a long time, so it's not as enticing really. It's a nice value add, but it's not like, ooh, I'm gonna click here. I've never had someone say, I bought and sold with you just because of your truck,
Okay.
right? It's because of my charming personality, obviously. But it's, you know, that's what I would consider skinny. Yeah. So. All right, so keys to connecting. I think we talked about some of this, but if you're getting online leads, like you have to have a system around connecting quickly. You have to have a system around connecting quickly. So you said you generated quite a few online leads. Do you have a system around it?
And I think that's my biggest problem is I'm, especially now, I was on a team originally, but I'm solo for the last 18 months. And there will be days where there'll be 18 hours before I can get back to some of these people. And that's way too long of time because they've moved on and gone to the next site or whatever.
Yeah,
And also my site is like, you can pull up the list. Like you can search a house in Canton and it'll give you 10 or 15 properties in the list. But as soon as you click on that, it's forced registration. You can't see any photos or anything. And I noticed that when I switched to that format, I was getting a lot more bogus
yeah,
information. Because it's almost like people were pissed off that they got that far and then I'm sitting there trying to like psychoanalyze Google and go, I don't understand this algorithm and I'm not getting to you fast enough. So that's what I think is missing is probably the system. Because when you're on a team, you have other people that help pick up that slack. And when you're trying to figure it out yourself, it's kind of overwhelming.
yeah,
So.
Sometimes I think when people are doing the bogus information, and we get a lot of those with a lot of choice language.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of self-selecting out. They're telling you they're way back on this timeline. They're not ready for someone to call or email them. So it's kind of their way of telling you that.
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Like you're forced with an option of, do I build a system that's automated around this forced registration that I have? And like, it's just automated because I don't have the bandwidth to do it. Or do I move the forced registration back in the process, right? Like it's not forced registration, or they have to look at this, and this, which is going to lead to less leads,
Mhm.
which is fine because you don't have the time to follow up with them
I
anyways.
have 200 sitting there right now that
Right.
I can't, like, I just can't service them.
Yeah.
So,
What site do you use? Sync?
yeah.
They have it where it does automated.
Well, and I switched to an automated text field and that helped with engagement. But the verbiage of those text messages is something that I don't have the ability to edit.
Mm,
That's frustrating because what that said is not, and this goes back to being consistent with who you are and your brand. what is said in that text message is something that I would never say.
Right.
Ever. Like, I would never sound like that. And like, I read those text messages, I want to punch myself in the face.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, who is here?
Yeah,
But it's frustrating because then I call the people and then if I get them on the phone, they're kind of testy at first and then I've got to work through that and it's just another hurdle that I'm like, all right, well, let's fight through this too. And that's kind of why I was glad when this whole series started, because it's like, well, how do I, especially now on top of the market not being hot, as hot as it was, you know, how do we fine tune this and get it to where it becomes not like a car that's ready to fall apart?
right.
Like it's a squeaky belt. I can hear that squeaky belt this whole time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you don't have this, I would argue you're better off just not even having registration or having it way down the road. Because if not, you're just pissing people off, honestly, like, because they're forced to register. And then if they do want information, you don't have time to follow up with them. So I don't know if you've ever inquired on a website and never got any contact back, like that's super frustrating.
It is.
And so like, that's basically what's happening. And so either build the system or move the registration back, because the further you move it back, the more qualified that lead is, because they're more voluntarily raising their hand.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, they're telling you that they're further along
yeah,
on the process already.
It was just how it was, hey, did I drop the ball? Did, you know, are you mad at me? Or, and I'm like, no, what, like, no. It's, and it didn't, the first message goes out and it doesn't have my name on the bottom.
oof,
Like no signature, you can't, and I've spent hours trying to talk with Sync, and it was a program that I don't have exclusive access to. I have a deal with another agent that allows access to these leads, and that's kind of why I went the Snap or Home Snap route, where I can kind of create my own brand. I'm not using this site, and I can kind of funnel people in the way I want to.
right,
Because I added another whole database worth of business in with mine, where it was my mother's business. And when I added that in, now I'm focused on them over here, and these leads are getting pushed even further back.
sure,
So it's kind of like, and that's where I feel like I'm underwater, like,
yeah,
because then referrals come in, because I've been in for a few years now, so now I've got people recommending me from past clients, and I'm like, well, I can't make, you know, those take precedence over,
sure,
it's prioritizing.
absolutely, yeah,
Does your site have like categories? Like, so like for Boomtown, for example, you get them, they're new, you contact and change to qualify, you contact, like, you get a hold of them, it's like, what, they're based on your conversation?
Yeah, well, I can set where they're at too in the process,
Okay.
you know, where you know, there's a time waster feature, like, hey, this person's just jerking my chain, or then this person's serious, but they're not pre-approved yet, so I can go through and sort them by that. But then it's like, well, how often? If I could ask five people, how often would you want somebody to, you know, follow up with you? Some people say never, some people say, I like, and then it's like, you're trying to remain top of mind because we have X number of agents in the area.
Right.
So it's, where do you get, that's a fine line between annoyance and, because I'm an agent and I get, I don't know, maybe 10 different emails from different agents in the area, and I go, gee, this person again,
Mhm.
and I'm like, this is what I'm doing to people, oh no. Then I get caught in this mental, like, I'm like a rat on the wheel going, oh no, I can't get off.
you need to find the unsubscribe button to those agents. I'm like an unsubscribe Nazi, man, it just, one email that comes in, I'm like, oh, never signed up for this,
All my emails.
yeah.
Reports fail.
Who is this? All right, so other keys to connecting, once you get them on the phone, you have to identify the motivation and readiness. And that's kind of what he was saying was like, if they want to be followed up with once every 6 weeks, don't follow up with them every week, right? Like, because you're not matching their motivation. So I have set an appointment on there twice because that's the most important part, right? Like the whole point we have a website is to get contact information and set an appointment. Nothing else. Set an appointment. Build a relationship, be human with them. Does everyone know LP Mama? Probably not. No,
No?
Dominic Fonte doesn't know LP Mama.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't really know who mom.
Darcy,
What?
what?
See, Darcy,
Does
not
it-
really.
It's not a KW thing.
It's not a
No.
Kool-Aid thing, is it?
No. All right, LP Mama is the script for any buyer call that comes in
Oh.
on how to convert them. So I'm gonna dust off my skills here.
Yeah.
L is location.
So Jose, thanks so
Yeah,
much for calling.
Role play this out with me. Yeah.
So thanks so much for calling. That house is in Jackson. Is at the location that you're looking.
That's L. P,
Is the price of that house is 199? Is at the price range you're looking?
Thank you very much.
M,
And his motivation. So tell me a little bit about when you'd like to see the house. Is that something that you can do this evening or tomorrow? Are you looking to buy? What's your time frame? Motivation?
A,
Are you working with an agent? I have to ask.
M,
By the way, have you been pre-approved yet? Because I work with local lenders, blah, blah, blah.
and A.
Let's go ahead and see the house tomorrow at 2.
Yeah. That is your framework for any buyer call. Now, here's the thing I'll say is,
Or wherever.
I'm an analytic.
yeah, here's what I'll say is LP Mama can go, it doesn't have to be an LP Mama form. Many times we're actually a LP ma'am because we're setting the appointment. That's what the buyer wants. They just want an appointment. And then I'll run through the other ones, not me, people on my team. But like that's the framework, the check marks of what you should be talking to a buyer about before you set an appointment. Location, price,
And it's a
mortgage,
question.
motivation.
It's
agent.
an information then question.
Yeah.
If I give you information, the price of the house is that the price you're looking around, they're more likely to answer you because you gave something and then you're taking something from them.
Yeah.
That's the concept.
It's the framework for every buyer call.
So here I got one for
Yeah.
you. So the same exact thing you just did, but of
Send it
course.
to my-
in the,
I told Linda to come in here.
Right, so, we're under contract currently, so go ahead with the same scenario, do it again with under contract, what you say.
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
She's calling about
in the
123 Main Street and it's already under
Oh, it's
contract.
already under contract.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
So I'm gonna say, oh, that's great. Thanks so much for calling. That house is in Jackson Township. Is that the location that you're looking for?
I am,
I'm gonna roll through the whole thing and I'm not gonna tell you it's under contract until I get the information I need. And then I'm gonna go ahead and try to get you set up in a search and then roll with the, oh, by the way, it's under contract.
that's
And
what I was
the,
curious.
the appointment might not be an appointment to see that house.
Right.
It might be a buyer consultation. Can we get together for coffee? Can you come into my office and let's go through your needs and do that to get face to face?
And depending on when it got under contract, I might still, because I don't put pending signs up because I want the calls to still come. I might even schedule the appointment and then say, oh, hey, in the meantime, the house is sold, but there's another one that is down the street I can show you.
Fair
Yep.
enough.
Gina's the best LP Mama scripter I've ever met, actually. Not just saying that. Oh, there's a couple on the chats. Are you answering chats? Okay, good. All right. And the whole point of all of this is to set an appointment, period. Cultivating. So this is a pet peeve of mine is when I hear agents call these leads to follow up and they're just saying, hey, I'm calling to check in how your home search is going. And like, there's no real value. I think you have to be able to provide some type of value. Hey, I wanted to update you on what's going on with mortgages. I was just in a class and I heard about a new program for buyers. And I wanted to get that information to you. Imagine you're sitting at home, your phone rings and it's your insurance agent and he leaves a message and say, hey, I just wanted to talk to you about insurance. No, I'm not calling that. I'm not calling that person back, right? And so it's the same concept with the consumer that you're trying to get a hold of. Give them a reason to call you back and provide value, right? We're doing a client event. I want to invite you, whatever the case is. Like there needs to be a reason for them to reach back out to you.
Have a purpose for the call,
Yeah.
even if it's a, a happy holidays call or something like that. It's, you're calling them with something besides just, hey, are you still looking for a house?
Right. Be patient and consistent with the cultivating. We've all heard about farming for neighborhoods, but this is just online digital farming, right? And so it's going to take a while for those crops to come to harvest. And remember where they're at in the process, because it's going to take a while and it's our job just to stay patient and consistent. And I know that's hard for realtors that have ADD and, like they want deals now, and you also want deals 18 months from now or 6 months from now.
Just to jump in on that, you know, how many times have we all heard, oh, those were crappy leads? Like, no, the internet lead is a different type of lead than your friend telling you that they've got a friend who's looking to buy or sell. And so like, to expect anything faster than the 18-month average funnel is naive. Like, that's just not how it works. So the consistency and the patience is just how it has to work if you want to sell to these people.
Right. Yeah. Say that again.
So Melissa told me, that when I was first getting started, I was like, yeah, leads are bad. She's like, no, these aren't bad. They follow it, this sucks.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was it for the slideshow, but did you have anything to add or do we have questions? And then we're gonna do like ahas. What questions do you have for me, for Laura, for anybody about internet, anything? I'm an open book.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you get like the texting email part, pretty self-explanatory when you're following up with internet leads. But my biggest problem is when I call somebody on the phone and I try not to sound. I don't want to say rehearsed because I don't rehearse, but I don't want to sound so salesy. And I mean, I wouldn't be in a people business if I wasn't good at conversing with people in an organic type of setting. But the providing value part when you're calling people is something I really struggle with.
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
It's because you're not rehearsing.
Okay,
That's why.
well, that's fair.
You
What-
need to be scripted.
what do you
When you
do?
practice scripting, you don't sound scripted, because when you get used, like the flow of LP Mama for me, I've been doing it. I used to record my calls and listen to myself in a group setting, which was horrifying. That's why I'm really good at LP Mama now. But nonetheless, the more you practice scripting, the more you know the script, and therefore then you can make it your own, and then it doesn't sound like that.
It'll sound like you.
Yeah,
Because
because you took
ingrained.
that script internally, you understand it and you added your tweaks to it. And so it's just a conversation at that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
This whole thing I did was a script. I've done
You're
it
stealing it.
50 times. I can do it in my sleep. I've taught it 100 times. Like, that's a script. Did it sound rehearsed?
No.
Right,
No.
because I made it my own and like, it's just, I know it, right?
So simple example, last month, our buyer's agent scripted. Somebody's just looking on the website, oh, I'm just looking, I don't need your help. And the response to that was, that's great. I love for you to research while you're making a huge purchase. Can I be a resource for you? Can I send you some information? It's not sales, it's just, it's help, it's providing.
Yeah, would it be okay with you if I sent you our upcoming listings before they hit the market, you know, whatever the case, if I send you foreclosed homes as they come on the market? Like, that's providing value to them.
And
So,
it's,
okay, are you okay if I keep you updated on what's going on with rates and different programs out there to help you make buying affordable?
Is that a prefix that you guys commonly use? Are you okay with getting their permission for an easy yes?
Would it be okay? Are you okay? Would you mind?
and that
Yeah.
LP Mama's still in
Yeah.
there with that, because it's, can you tell me a little bit about, you know, what you've been looking at online, so I can best
What do you think?
help
the-
send you some things.
What do you think the perception is though? You're a salesperson, you're gonna try to sell me something, you're gonna bug me, oh geez. You know, that's what they think a lot of times. So
It
you
could
have
be.
to just say, this is all right from time to time, if I reach out to you, if I have something of value, I think that you might benefit from,
Yeah.
something like that.
There's a saying that I think they say it at Bold, where it's come from contribution. Right? And kind of that's the mentality that we try to like instill into the agents is come from contribution. Don't come from like sales. Like, I want to give you information. I want to help you through this process. If we're not a fit, whatever. And if we are, I can be a huge resource to you, but we're coming from contribution, not from a sales standpoint. And I would like for you to buy and sell.
That's
Yeah.
That's, you don't have to say that, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you get a new internet lead, are you calling them the second that you get the lead, or are you giving it an hour or something?
Speed the lead.
Speed the lead.
Second, we get it if possible.
And
Yeah.
that never comes
Answer
off
your
as
phone.
like overwhelming to someone who's just put in their information that they're already getting a call, or do they appreciate the fact that they're already getting a call that fast?
You definitely get people that say, wow, I didn't think somebody would call me that fast.
I thought it was your answering machine.
But again, that script
But like in
is
a positive way.
great. You know, we want to make sure that you're taken care of.
I think you will get people that are caught off guard And you will get people that are be like, I really appreciate that.
And is your first contact, is that a call or is it a text message?
For us, it's typically a call.
But it's, again, it's jab, jab, hook, like it could be call, text, call, email. Like it can't be the same thing over, because
Yeah.
if you call me, I'm not picking up my phone, as you
That's
guys all
my
know.
thing, that a lot of times-
But if you text me, I'll get right back to you.
Right, so that's my question is, do you see a better outcome from sending a text first and letting them know who you are, then calling, or calling first and then leaving a voicemail or a text message afterwards?
Well, we're using that 3x3 program right now, so we're call, text, email for 3 days, all three. Depends on the person. You may get somebody that picks up the phone or somebody that responds to an email.
So two people in town, so they're getting an automatic text and email first. Anyway, that's
Mhm.
happening in second grade.
Just to
And
practice.
it says
Yeah,
agent will be-
I agree.
Hidden grill a little.
That's when they're in the new tab. When they get to qualify and then.
Zarice, what I do is if I always call first, and that is usually the best response. I tell them that I will also be sending it in text so that they know that, and then in the text, I let them know I left them.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah. Because if they don't pick up their phone, and they're a texter, it's, yeah. I just left you a message about blah, blah, blah.
If they don't respond to your first couple passes, do you guys have a rule? Hey, we're going for 10 touches in 5 days, like how heavy or what kind of period of time?
So they do the 3x3. So after 3 days, our agents have to make a decision of, am I keeping the lead or am I giving it to the inside sales agent to like follow up with it? So typically, if they do not get anywhere with the lead, they're going to kick it back. If they have some interaction and feel like it's a little bit warmer, they're going to keep it themselves. And it doesn't matter if you have an inside sales department or not. It's, I'm going to keep this as a hot lead, or I'm just going to automate everything. And they're just going to get e-listing alerts, and they're going to get, once a week or once a month or whatever. And you can automate all that.
When you call, is it, if they don't pick up, do you call back immediately? Like make more than one call, or do you just leave a voicemail, then go to text, then go to email? Because that was the struggle that when I was on a team, it was, I call them 3 times in a row, and I go, man, if that were me, I would answer that phone on that third ring.
I'd be pissed.
And I would lose my marbles.
Yeah. Yeah, we do not encourage that at all.
I just wanted to-
Again, that kind of feels like you're crossing really over to the salesperson line.
Yeah.
Like it's not who we want to be. We want to come from contribution and help them. And I don't think calling someone 3 times in 3 hours is coming from contribution.
Psycho.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Did I offend you? Did I drop the ball?
Myself on a bridge.
Other questions, thoughts, suggestions, best practices?
How often do you change it of how you do things? So you've been in the. internet
All the
game
time.
just constantly,
Yeah.
whatever.
What book was I reading? What was I listening to? Anyways, there's this story about a couple people going out and fishing, and they split up into 2 groups. It was 2 and 2. And they said, whoever goes with Eric is going to catch the most fish. And at the end of the day, whoever went with Eric did catch the most fish. And the reason that is because Eric was an impatient fisher, meaning he would go to a spot, and if it's not working, I'm going to give it 20 minutes and I'm going to go fish somewhere else. Right. And so that's kind of our concept, is like, if it's not working, we're to give it a little bit of time, and we're going to tweak it, and we're not married to anything. Does that make sense? Yeah. Anything else?
This is a pet peeve, but I'm just, like I said, a little dysfunctional here, but, when, if you're in the work mode, you should answer your phone if you can. Now, I know sometimes you don't answer because you might be caught off guard or something like that. You want to kind of get the message and prepare for the response. But if you're in the work mode, I'd say answer the phone. That's a refreshing thing that happens. And if it goes to voicemail, for a quicker response, text. I know that, I understand the concept there. I think that's wrong to do that. I just say, text or call.
Yeah.
But when you say for a faster response, why you can't take my call, Jose, or whoever, what I mean?
Well, if I'm in a meeting and I can text you, but I can't call you.
That's right. But you know how people like they'll inference things.
Right.
The way their brain processes.
Yeah.
But I understand. I just say if you're in the mode of working, answer the phone. It's refreshing change from the consumers that are out there these days. And if you text, try to respond if you can.
Yeah.
Quickly.
You don't wanna drop the ball.
Speed to lead is what works best in my opinion.
Speed of leads critical.
Critical.
Yeah,
Because they don't know that they're calling Jose or Dominic or Gina or whoever. They just want some information. They're just like next. And if you happen to catch them and can build rapport, the other thing that I would mention is like a lot of times like that mama or whatever you call it, the L mama. Or whatever.
see that sunk right in, man.
Yeah, I know, mama. I remember the mama. But you know, sometimes like, so obviously if I'm sort of like when we're talking on the phone, I'm a detail guy. You know, and you're focused on your little mama or whatever it is, you know, you still have to meet, you know, sometimes you, like you said, you set the appointment, you build the rapport once you're at the appointment, or if you get them to come to the office, stuff like that. Based on personalities and things like that.
Yeah, the appointment's the point of the conversation of LP Mama.
Yeah, it's just. You know,
And you don't want to go show a house to someone who has an agent or is not qualified. Right? Like it's a waste of everyone's time. So that's the framework of LP Mama, is to make sure you're checking all the boxes. And for a D, I'm probably not getting, like a D personality, I'm not getting through an LP Mama script.
Right.
Like it's not happening. So. Anything else? So I'm like 5 or 6 reviews away from getting like to be a KW approved, go around the world and be a trainer, blah, blah, blah. If you have 30 seconds, if you can leave a review, if you like it, it's Jose Medina. If you don't, it's Laura Brown. I'm just kidding. Is it working?
What's your region?
Yes.
Oh, instructor not in drop down, so.
You just type
this is
in.
Like a KW form.
Yeah.
And it looks for an instructor, you go all the way to the bottom and it says instructor not in drop down. You can then write Jose. in.
Yeah.
Or me.
Yeah.
Mark.
We are Michigan to Northern Illinois.
We're not Michigan anymore.
I know.
So, we go back.
So, yeah, I would appreciate that. MINO, correct.
Yep.
Cool. Anything else?
Thanks you both.
All right.
Just quick PSA, we didn't meet last week, and so everything is a little bit shaken up. Rather than moving everything back, we're just gonna take the class from last week and drop it at the end. So that lead conversion with Ginger Kuhn, that's gonna be on November 30th. We'll send a bit of information on that. Just as a heads up.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Good to see everyone.
Thank you.
So,